Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another conversation. This week, I've got Topher Field. We're going to have a bit of a slow chat about all things freedom movement and the path going forward. Topher is a filmmaker and commentator on politics, and he's been very influential in speaking over the last few years about faith, where we get our values, how to move forward. He even ran as a political candidate for the Liberal Democrats in Tasmania for the Senate, and he did very, very well. And I want to welcome you to the show, Topher, please.
Mate, thank you very much. It's this weird thing. I feel like I know you really well. But actually, we've chatted on the phone a couple of times. You've interviewed me once before. I think maybe we did like an Instagram live or something.
We did, yeah, back in January or February,
back in the day. But I actually feel like I know you really well. We've never been in the same room at the same time. So I just want to say, well played. Well played. You've avoided me so far, but your luck is going to run out someday.
Well, it's going to run out on the 23rd of August. So
that's true.
If you guys haven't heard yet, I'll be down in Melbourne on the 23rd. I'll be watching the premiere screening of Battleground Melbourne, and I can't wait to have a look at that. And I'm really looking forward to finally meeting you in person. But
look, it's going to be good, but that room's going to be an amazing room to be in. The premiere for me is just kind of like a big warm hug for everybody. It's, there's other cinema screenings that are designed for you to bring other people along. There are some people, you send them the link online, they're not going to watch it. You bring the DVD, they're not going to watch it. But you say, hey, listen, it's in the cinemas, I've got you a ticket. Well, then they're obliged. They're going to come along, they're going to watch it. So that's what the idea is with all the other showings. But that premiere showing, it's like, let's just have a big warm hug between all of us. Watch it, celebrate together, cry together. I guarantee you there's going to be a lot of tears on the night. It's just the nature of the doco and the nature of what we've all been through. So it's going to be really interesting, Joel, actually, to get your perspective as someone who wasn't here at the time. You didn't live through those events in the way that most people who'll be there did. And actually, your perspective is going to be quite an interesting one. So I look forward to talking with you after that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we did. The last time we interviewed, I actually did end up watching it, and then we had a chat. But no, it was an absolutely amazing thing. I literally watched it the 3 hours before our interview, and I teared up quite a few times because I remember seeing the whole thing take place. It's a beautiful state, and I hate to see it. But no, we haven't met in person. It's going to be awesome catching up on the 23rd of August. And guys, just a side note, I want to make sure you guys get this at the start. If you want tickets to that, there's a bunch of different shows that's being screened. Go to www.topherfield.net and you can get your tickets there. And I'm really excited to actually really get it out there that this is an amazing film. I've already watched it. It was really good. There's some excellent people in that actually really added some depth to that. Voice for Victoria's in there. Millie Fontana's in there. They did a really excellent job at giving that depth of understanding in there. But without further ado, wow. What's it been? 2-3 months since the election? You had an awesome showing in Tasmania. You almost snagged a spot, and a lot of people are like, I don't think so. I think it was actually quite close.
You're being a little bit kind. Look, the reality is we did by far better than the Liberal Democratic Party have ever done before in Tassie. We had roughly tripled their primary vote, but in all honesty, from a very low base. And I allowed myself to believe that the freedom movement as a whole was going to have a much stronger showing than what we did. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We didn't have the showing that I genuinely believed that we would. I honestly thought that David Limbrick was going to get into the Senate here in Victoria. I thought surely after all that he's done, how could he not? And sure enough, he didn't. And in fact, it wasn't even really close in his particular case. And I just think it's very unjust. It's very unfair on him. I think he'd more than earned it. But it also, it says things about where Australians are at as voters. It also says things about where we're at as a movement. And we have to be humble enough to go, okay, there's a reason why, for example, the legalized cannabis vote jumped up by 5 percentage points. Jumped up to over 5 percentage points. And many freedom parties only went sideways or improved by maybe a percentage point. There's a reason why that happened, and we need to really spend time drilling down and understanding what is that, and what do we do differently going forwards? How do we stay absolutely true to our values, but also make ourselves more appealing and get more cut through when it comes to reaching out to voters who've never thought about us before? We have to do both. We are a values-based movement. We can't abandon our values. We're not going to abandon our values, but we need to find out how do we communicate these values better. so that we become a viable option in a lot more people's minds. So I gave it a red hot go. I had amazing support. The people of Tassie, phenomenal state. I've always believed that. I've been there many times, both for business and for pleasure. But boy, they came out and some amazing people just came out of the woodwork and did amazing things for me, as well as for other candidates over there. A beautiful place. If you've never been to Tassie, do yourself a favor, get there, spend some time traveling around. Absolutely phenomenal. The people are incredible. The food, the quality of food in Tassie is next level. Now,
Oh.
I like my food. I don't know if you've noticed this about me. I like my food.
Well, I
The
wouldn't
quality
know.
of
I haven't seen you in person.
the quality of the food in Tassie is genuinely next level. You go, whether it's up in Lonnie or down in Hobart or in more sort of remote areas. You go into these unassuming looking places and you sit down, you order your food, and it comes out and it's like you've gone to one of the best restaurants in Melbourne. It's just, and that's just everywhere. It's just the food culture there. Really,
Yeah.
really phenomenal place. So in terms of the election, we've got a lot of work to do. I think the federal election helped us to build a little bit of a base. We've got more volunteers in the Liberal Democratic Party than we've ever had before. We've got some amazing high caliber candidates coming through for us now. And we're gearing up for the Victorian election and putting all those lessons that we've learned into practice.
Yeah, absolutely. When we had our discussion in January or February this year, I was taken aback by your knowledge of the preferencing system. And I think this was before your marbles video. And
Probably, yeah.
I was really, a lot of people that don't understand the system. And it was just really refreshing to be like, yeah, this guy gets it. This guy gets it. There are often deals made that he understands how to negotiate certain deals and how it's actually done politically and how it actually works. I mean, I'm always still surprised by how much people don't understand how it works. But yeah, for the federal election, I was basically right on the mark with how the election was going to go, and it was scarily accurate with the post-election analysis. That was one thing. But before the election, I was sort of ringing the bell 2 weeks out from the election saying, guys, ding, 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 we're not reaching mainstream Australians, as you said, enough.
Yeah.
And I felt, and I predicted that the maximum we could get was 6 freedom centres. That was the maximum we could get. Now people saying, oh, no, we're going to form government, or this guy's going to be our new prime minister, or whatever. I was like, guys,
that was
like,
always a bit much.
yeah, and the problem was, and I did this in a post after the election, I said, take note of who's explaining this to you. There are a lot of people that oversold it, and I felt like I had to tell a relative that another relative had died. I had to bring people back to earth and say, all right, look, this is what happened. This is why it happened. Because the problem is, when they set expectations that high, if we don't get those expectations, it must have been 100% voter fraud. It must have been like a North Korea style 100% for the dictator. And I was like, guys, no. Yes, there are some major problems with the Senate. Bad advice was given out, but with other stuff, it's not 100% rotten through and through. And I took a lot of really good encouragement out of seeing what happened in Arizona in America, one of those swing states that had some of the worst voter fraud in the 2020 presidential election. Well, now all the Trump candidates have just swept it. That is like a hope story for Australia, and I'm trying to get that message out to people.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing with the upcoming Victorian election, because that's obviously where my head is at now, is focused on trying to get the best possible result there, which is why I just want everyone to watch Battleground Melbourne, because if every Victorian watched Battleground Melbourne, Daniel Andrews would lose for sure. Not that Matthew Guy's any better, but that's another story.
We'll get to that. We will get to
get to that. The thing with the Victorian system, there's 2 key differences. Number one, at a federal level, the AEC, the Australian Electoral Commission, the guys that look after federal elections, I genuinely believe that there is no systemic corruption, right? Now, systemic corruption, as distinct from, are there some opportunistic individuals within the system who might use their position to advantage their team in some way? I can't rule that out. But I'm quite convinced that there is no systemic corruption in the AEC. I'm not yet willing to say the same thing about the VEC. Right. The bureaucracies in Victoria have been politicized over a long period of time to a degree that is quite scary. We saw that with Victoria Police obedience to a lot of the draconian laws that were passed, or rules. They're not even laws. The rules that were passed during lockdowns, etc. We've seen that in the way that IBAC and other anti-corruption bodies keep on coming out with these reports that say, "Oh, here's all this corruption. It's clear and crystal." And then the conclusion of the report is, we don't believe there's enough evidence to prosecute, which now just kneecaps any future prosecution, because any future prosecution, the defense just brings that to the judge and says, hey, the anti-corruption bodies looked at it and said there wasn't enough evidence. Don't waste the court's time.
Yeah.
So what they've done is they've laid everything out and then completely kneecapped anyone that's trying to hold, Daniel Andrews or others accountable. We see that there is a huge amount of genuine corruption, I believe, in the Victorian public service and within Victorian politics. So I'm not saying that the VEC is corrupt. I'm just saying I'm not yet willing to take the stand, because there's a lot of people that get grumpy at me when I say, no, there's no corruption. There's no systemic corruption in the AEC. People get grumpy at me. They want there to be corruption in the AEC. They want to believe that that was the only reason that we lost or didn't win the last election. We were never going to form government. You won't find me claiming that we were going to form government. We weren't. It was obvious. I was optimistic. I thought that we could get our 6 senators. I thought we could get one from each state. I did allow myself to believe that we were going to do better than we did. Guilty as charged. But I never said we're going to form government. I said we might get somewhere between 3 and 5 lower house seats. And if we're lucky, we'll get, the full 6 senators. And that's about our peak. That's about as good as it's going to get. We got nowhere near that. So in the Victorian election, the 2 main differences are, number one, I have some concerns about the way the election is going to get run. There is some scope there, in my opinion, for things to be done underhandedly. Now, I know there are people working on that. There are people working on making sure it doesn't happen. And there are other people that are working on things to try and ensure that if anything does happen, it will become visible. It won't be able to be kept secret. So we'll see how they go. But the other big difference with Victoria is that we still have the group voting tickets. So my marbles video does not apply to the Victorian election. It works entirely differently. Yeah. And in fact, I probably need to take the marbles videos down and release a Victoria specific one. Because otherwise people are going to watch that marbles video and think that that's how it works at all elections within Australia. No, that's how it works at the Australian federal election. So we have group voting tickets. Deals are going to be done between political parties. Some political parties will publish what those deals are, others won't. It's all going to get a little bit messy, but myself and many others, and I'm sure you'll be helping out to amplify our message, Joel. We will be trying to put out really good quality information around that between now and the election, so that people understand what's going on.
To say that, look, I don't know if there's systemic corruption or malfeasance happening in the VEC, but I can 100% say that they are the worst in the country. In my opinion, I agree with that. I talked to a number of politicians, both when I was in Victoria in November last year, when they opened the borders between New South Wales and Victoria. And I was also just recently there for a few days in Victoria, doing some groundwork, doing some recon, trying to ascertain, because you can't do this when you're in a different state, guys, 1,000 Ks away. You've got to be there on the ground, talking to people face to face. There are some things people will not say over the phone. They need to see the whites of your eyes. And so I got down there, and mate, I'm pretty much, we're coming up to the 100 days out from the election. I pretty much know how this election's going to go, and I'm not really happy with what I'm seeing. To paint a stark picture, there are at least 13 freedom parties running in this particular election. What's a freedom party? One that believes against lockdowns, mandates, passports and all that stuff. These 13 freedom parties, if you thought it was bad federally in terms of they don't want to work together, on a state level, they do not want to work together. I mean, they're forming little clusters. So 2 here will be together. These 3 will sort of work together in preference. And this is the thing, guys, as Topher alluded to before, in the preferencing is different. One of the biggest differences is you don't have to number all the boxes for the how to vote card. So the problem we've got is, they may not preference each other, the 13 freedom parties, and that's a thing.
Joel, let me say this. I think there's going to be a couple of outliers that will just dig in and refuse to negotiate. But when you actually, any mature political party, now unfortunately there's a lot of new ones, but any mature political party that has been through at least one electoral cycle before clearly understands that there is no downside to making preference deals, because by the time you are distributing your preferences, you've already been eliminated, right? There is it does not hurt you to make those deals. Now, obviously, they're going to make those deals in the way that they think advantages them the most, right? So each of them is going to be argy-barging and trying to get the best possible deal. But for a party to turn around and not do a deal with one of the other freedom parties and then just to bump up the major parties higher on their card is incredibly immature, is incredibly short-sighted. So I hope that none of them fall for that trap. They may. I hope that none of them do. There is an argument to be made, Joel, that the group voting tickets actually help these minor parties in these situations. And let me put the argument to you, and I'm not sure where I stand on this, but let me put the argument to you. One of the things that we saw with the federal election, where people did get to choose where they wanted to put their own vote, it was just all entirely on their own numbering. There were no group voting tickets where the parties decided where they went. What we saw was only about 20% of people actually followed the how to vote cards, and about 80% voted number one for, in my case, Liberal Democrats, and then voted number two for the Liberal Party, or voted number one for a UAP, and then voted number two for the Liberal Party. It's like, well, guys, you needed to vote number one for your party of your choice, and then number two for the other guy, and then number three for the other guy, and don't put the majors until near the end, just in front of the Greens and in Teals and things like that. But people didn't follow that advice. What happens with the group voting tickets is they just put a number one next to that party, and then the party decides where the preferences go. And what we've actually seen is senators or upper house MPs being elected on sometimes less than 0.5% of the primary vote, because all of the preferences are flowing as a block. So there is an argument to be made, if all of the freedom-friendly parties can put ego and everything else aside and actually just put each other in their group voting tickets, that we've actually perhaps got a better chance than what we did in the federal election.
Yeah, alluding there to the little scheme that Glenn Drury is running down there, which I was very eager to hear about when I was there. I do believe a number of people have done segments on this online. It's how does this work, guys? How does this work? And this is, I'm not specifically talking about Glenn Drury. This is how it could work.
Yeah,
you get five parties, basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What they do is they basically cut up the state, and they say, okay, you can run here in the upper house, you run here in the upper house, you run here in the upper house, you run here in the upper house, and they go around the circle and they say, okay, for this area, this guy's a part of our team, we're all going to put him as our number 2 preference. For this area, it's this person's turn. They're going to be the number 2. And they go all the way around until everyone gets their seat. And that's how someone can get in on a very small margin. They all just sort of back that person in that area. Now, is it illegal? No, it's not illegal. Is it immoral? I think it's 100% immoral. You know, this sort of thing, I don't think it would happen on a federal level. And you know, I think that people should be going to the election and putting their ideas forward. Now, Victoria is so far gone, there's going to be certain things that you guys, as a state, this is not my state, I've lived in New South Wales my whole life, you got to work out how you're going to save your state. You know, the best thing I can do is, for this particular election, is I'm putting some how to vote cards out under the Turning Point Australia brand, which is not me that does it, it's a separate team, and they will be heavily getting input from Victorians that we know, like, and trust, many of which I actually visited when I was in Victoria. And that'll help inform that, and hopefully we can turn the state around.
I noticed you didn't visit me as part of that list of Victorians you know, like, and trust.
I visited a lot. That was my visit. I visited a lot of people in Victoria, and unfortunately, I did try to meet with you, but we didn't. You did try to meet me.
Yes, I wasn't able to make it work.
And I've got plenty. I've got plenty more meetings to go in my next trip. I'll be there for a few days next time, but yeah. Look. Victoria.
So Glenn Drury is known as the preference whisperer because of the work that he's done in the past, getting people elected on very small margins. Now, I'm with you in this sense. If I had my way, voting would not be compulsory, and you would have to number each person that you want your vote to go to. There would be no group tickets, and there would be no rules around how many you have to number. You could number as few or as many as you want, or you could just not show up. To me, that's what a free vote actually looks like. That's what a free and democratic system would actually look like. However, that's not the system that we have. And so we have to kind of work within the system that we do have. And the system that we have has group voting tickets. So does it then become immoral to use the system that we have to try and get the best possible outcome? I'm going to come down on the other side of that to you, Joel, and say, no, it is the system that we have. I think as long as it's being acknowledged, as long as you're not deceiving the public about what you're doing, I think at that point it's all's fair in love and war. And here's the clincher to that, in my opinion. If it were not for those sorts of games being played, we would not have had David Limbrick and Tim Quilty in the upper house in Victoria over the last couple of years, which means there would have been basically no one standing up against lockdowns, etc. The only reason we have them at all is because these minor parties were willing to work together and play those games. So that would be my counterpoint.
Sure. Yeah. Look, and look, I don't know. As I said, guys, I'm not sure about this. This is I'm glad I have the privilege to actually not go and say, this is how it must be done. It's not my state. But what we are doing, excuse me, what we are doing is our own how to vote card so that we go above that, and we're like, this is how we want to do it. These are the candidates we like, and I think this is the best way forward. But to say that, I've been taking a lot of, ever since I did visit Victoria recently, I've been trying to work out where the chips are going to land. And so from what I can see, and this is only, we're still over 100 days out from the election, guys, 3 months. From what I can see, where I see this election going right now is I see a Dan Andrews win in the lower house. I see him winning in his own right with a majority. And in the upper house, I see him getting, being able to still get legislation passed, but with a very large crossbench who will allow it to pass, just like with the permanent pandemic bill. That's the truth. That's what I see. Now, why? Is it because I'm trying to demoralize you guys? No, I'm trying to be 100% realistic. You got 3 months to turn this ship around, and this is the thing. If you lose this, a lot of you are going to come to New South Wales. 200,000 people have left Victoria. Well, there you go. I thought you told me in our last conversation you weren't coming to New South Wales.
No, we finished our tour. We drove up to Brizzy and back and had a look around. And on our way home from Albury, on the last leg back into Melbourne, my wife turned to me and said, after November, so after the election, let's leave Victoria. And I said, you mean if Daniel Andrews wins? She said, no, we'll stay to the election because I've promised that if I didn't win in Tassie, I was going to stay in Victoria long enough to vote against Daniel Andrews. So I'll do that.
Right.
And she said, no, doesn't matter. Let's just get out of Victoria. Let's just get a change of scenery. Her family's been in Victoria for 5 generations. I've been in Victoria for all but the first 2 years of my life. We've never known, we've traveled, but we've never lived. We've never settled. We've never made a life anywhere else. And I think the time has come. I mean, for me, I just need to get out of Victoria for a while, just because it doesn't feel like home anymore. I feel like I'm now living as a visitor in a foreign place, and I just need to get out and find where is home for me now. So, and I know that I won't be the only one. Let me make a contrary prediction, just so that in the after election coverage, one of us gets to point fingers at the other.
Here you go for it, mate. Go for it.
What I see happening, in my view, is similar to what rolled Jeff Kennett. So Jeff Kennett won 2 elections. He was quite popular, had a very, very significant majority. But over the journey, he just pissed off a lot of people in little ways, right? And approaching his 3rd election, he was overwhelmingly considered the favorite. He was absolutely expected to win. And he ended up losing. And he lost not because there was this groundswell of people that hated him. In the case of Daniel Andrews, he's not going to lose because there's a groundswell of people that have discovered freedom and they're voting for freedom parties. Yeah. It's going to be because people are just a bit tired of him. They're just a bit fatigued. Yeah. They're just a bit like, you know what? I don't want to see him on my TV again. I saw him every freaking day for 2 years. I don't want him back on my TV. I'm just a bit tired. And to reinforce that argument, Daniel Andrews is nowhere to be seen right now. He is avoiding cameras. He's avoiding media. I think that his polling and the internal party polling is showing very clearly that his face is not helping him right now. And staying away from the media is actually the smart play. So I'm going to say that it's going to be fairly close, but I think that Daniel Andrews is likely to go down. Now, I'm going to caveat, we still have to do the work, right? We still have to offer an actual alternative and put the argument out there. And if we don't, Daniel Andrews may very well win and we'll only have ourselves to blame. So I'm with you on that point. We have to do the work. Yeah. But I do think that there's an opportunity here for us to ride a level of not a freedom movement, but a level of dissatisfaction, disillusionment, tiredness, fatigue that people have towards Daniel Andrews, and we can leverage that to get him thrown out.
Yeah, but I think that's the biggest problem, and that's what I see. It's not enough to have an opponent that's the devil. You also need to put an opposing vision forward, and I think that that Matthew guy, and you're in furious agreement with me, is not that alternative vision. He is a weak. Liberal Party leader that is not the opposition. that guy, 50% climate target. I mean, more than the federal level 43%. I mean, are you joking? Are you trying to lose? I genuinely think he's trying to lose. I mean, does he have kids? Like, do they have his kids, like, and they're hiding him and they're holding a gun to their head? Like, what's going on? This guy's trying to lose the election.
No, he is symptomatic of the rot inside the Liberal Party. So I don't know if I told you the story last time we spoke. I don't tell it very often, so hopefully I haven't already. But I was invited in the first couple of years of me doing political commentary. I'd only made a few videos up to that point. I was invited by someone to speak at a Victorian Liberal Party branch meeting up in the Dandenongs. And I said, look, thanks for the invitation, but I don't think you understand who you've invited. I'm not a Liberal Party guy, and you're not going to like what I have to say. And they replied to my email and they said, no, you don't understand. I've got your measure. I'm going to like what you've got to say. It's everyone else in the room that isn't.
Oh, right.
And I was like, oh, okay, all right. Well, I'm off the chain then. I'm just going to go for it. So what I did, they did all the formalities and they said, oh, we've got Topher. He's going to speak. I stood up and I read the speech that Robert Menzies gave when he founded the Liberal Party.
Yeah.
And he talks in that speech about exactly what the Liberal Party is for and exactly what the Liberal Party is against.
Yeah.
He lays them both out very clearly. And I finished reading that and I simply said, if you were to look at the policies of the Liberal Party today and you didn't know that that was the party that Robert Menzies founded, would you think it was the party that Robert Menzies founded, or would you think it was the party that Robert Menzies was warning us against? And then I sat down. Not very many people spoke to me afterwards. I'm not sure why. I never got invited back. Weird, huh? I can't possibly imagine why.
Yeah.
How dare you? I've not been a fan of the Liberal Party for a very, very long time, and they lost their values a very, very long time ago. We had Premier Jeff Kennett here in Victoria during the 90s, and I think I think the Liberal Party had already lost its values even then. It was only by the strength of will of Jeff Kennett that they still held on to some level of their values. And as soon as he got rolled, that was it. The party was then completely set adrift. There was no anchor holding them in place at all. And this is where they've ended up.
Right. See, that's the first problem, a vision to strive towards. And I'm saying all of this, guys, because you can actually still turn this around. There is a window of opportunity right now to get rid of this leader and for the Liberals to take stock of what's going on.
You may not know because you're not in Victoria. Matthew Guy just had an absolute train wreck of an interview on 2GB.
I saw.
Okay,
Voice for Victoria has been covering it very well.
Okay, yeah, good. I wasn't aware they'd been covering it. That's great. So to me, there's an opportunity here where maybe the membership are going to realize that the emperor has no clothes.
Yeah.
But honestly, if they're going to change leaders, they've got maybe 2 weeks to do it, because if they wait another month, it's too close to the election.
Yeah.
Even now it's too close to the election, but they could get away with it.
100%. Now is the time. And this is the thing. A lot of people don't know this, but in the Liberal Party, now is the time too. We just saw Matt Keane. He's now been elected as the deputy leader of the New South Wales
Premier. Yep.
Of the Liberal Party in New South Wales. And he was the deputy premier. He was the deputy premier, but now he's the deputy leader of the Liberal Party. It used to be Stuart Ayres. But anyway, the point being, the numbers, people are getting unsettled about a lot of this. What's going on in New South Wales? It seems like they're holding on. All this dirt is just getting released right now about the Barilaro affair and his job that he was offered in New York and all that crap. Just corruption, guys. You don't need forget about the minutia. Politicians are bad, okay? And it's no surprises to you. I'm sure you understand. But there is a window of opportunity for New South Wales 6 months out from the election to actually make a difference. If they want to lose, they should make Matt Keane the premier and they should take it to the election and try to be Labor light or the Teals or whatever, and they'll lose.
You can't out-green the Greens.
You can't. And so, look, that's the first problem. The first problem is a vision to strive towards, we don't see. And the other problem is I'm looking at these freedom parties and I'm seeing over 13 freedom parties that do not want to preference each other. And the way that the preference system is worked in Victoria, even in other countries, if it's not mandatory to preference all the numbers, then what's going to end up happening is they won't preference each other. And then the Liberal Party will come up the centre and just end up having the highest vote in the actual areas. And to make matters worse, a lot of the people in New South Wales and a lot of people in the federal election around the country, we had one of the highest not voting rates in history. I mean, if you've actually got to get people to mark the ballot as well. And so I just put those things combined. I'm like, oh guys, this is an absolute disaster. And you might tell me to sod off, guys, and that's fine, but prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. Turn your state around. I would love to have a lot of you come up to New South Wales if it goes for the worst, but I think Victoria, we can't have the whole of Victoria annexed to the Chinese Communist Party because of the Belt and Road Initiative. All right, I know we sort of dealt with that in the past, but that's where things are going. We need you guys to smash this. It's going. You're heading for a train wreck, an iceberg, dead ahead. You can do this.
Yeah, look, it is pretty grim. Let me again make a counterpoint. Not that I didn't come here just to disagree with you the whole time, Joel. But
no, it's healthy.
That's what I'm doing.
I didn't invite you on to just agree, so that's good.
Good. You know me well. There does come a point where your loyalty to your family has to take precedence over your loyalty to the state, or even to your sort of your ideology, your beliefs in that political sense of your beliefs. I tell the story often about when I was in Venezuela and I was talking to the old guy in a jazz bar in the city of Caracas, run down, absolutely, like it may as well have been a war zone. It was the most dangerous place on earth outside of a war zone at the time. I was there with my wife for a friend's wedding, and we're there, and he's this old guy, and he quickly sort of figured out where I was coming from politically, and he just sort of almost, it was like he'd been waiting to pour his heart out to someone, and he poured his heart out to me. And he had enough English. He told me about how he did everything that he could to stop the socialists from winning, to stop Hugo Chavez from winning. He supported the opposing political parties. He attended rallies. He, did all the various things, letterboxing, all the rest of it. And it wasn't enough. And Hugo Chavez won. And he says, the one thing that I didn't do, and he had good enough English that he actually used this idiom. He says, I didn't make a plan B for if we lost. Right? And so he was sitting there and he had tears in his eyes as he was saying to me that other people that were part of that movement had then gotten out of Venezuela because they saw the writing on the wall. They understood what it meant. And they were living happily in Spain or in the US or in, other parts of South America or, Colombia being a big one. But he was stuck in Venezuela, and his son had basically lost his business and lost hope and lost everything. And his grandson was suffering the effects of malnutrition. Because they were stuck in Venezuela. And I made a vow that night, literally right there as I was looking at his face, I made a vow, I will never be that guy. Yeah. I will never be that guy that saw it coming, fought tooth and nail to stop it, but didn't make a plan B for the sake of my own family. So there is a point, I think, where it becomes acceptable to abandon ship, but I don't believe we've reached that point. And I'm going to be fighting tooth and nail all the way into this election because I do believe it's winnable. I do believe that there is a certain cultural fatigue with Daniel Andrews that's working in our favor, and we can leverage that, and we can get him thrown out. And from there, we're still in with a fighting chance. We can turn the ship around from there. If the Victorian people do return Daniel Andrews back into power, it says very, very frightening things about us. And at that point, that would be when personally I'll be going, okay, I'm going to prioritize my family.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you can turn this around, which is why one of the, I think I might have told you, we're having the exact same discussion we had 7 months ago.
Are we?
Yeah, we are. I just realized, it just occurred to me because you told that story last time.
I've got to apologize. I tell the Venezuela story a lot, but honestly, it was one of those really defining moments of my life.
Yeah, and I'm about to hit you with an equally defining moment. That's why it's funny how what's wrong with us. So I remember last time I was talking about Peter Hitchens and how he sat down with an interview with John Anderson, former Deputy Prime Minister. Yeah. And he basically said, "Nope, it's over. There's no sense in hoping. It's done." And I reckon I didn't sleep for almost 2 weeks. I was just like, it was one of the biggest activators for me. Yeah. This was in early 2019, I think it was, late 2018.
So and before the world went completely mad.
Pretty much, because this is the thing. You were making videos before it was cool in 2020 to do it. You were seeing what was going with the social moorings. You were seeing the collapse of Rome. You were seeing the fact that we've lost our Judeo-Christian values. they've intercepted the universities, the schools, they're indoctrinating the kids. You know, this long march through the institutions, which is indoctrinating us, climate change, all of this stuff that's going on, the massive corporations overseas, the problem with overspending. You were talking about all of this before it was cool to do it. Now, Peter Hitchens was talking on a lot of these points as well in this particular interview. And that was the interview that just did it for me. I was like, we really are stuffed. Like, and I had I was just shocked for 2 weeks. I was just like, what are we going to do? And, you know, if that doesn't activate you, I don't know what does. So when I saw that, I was like, that's it. You know what? Like, I know I might be young and naive, but I think we could make a difference. And so, you know, I sort of got a bit more engaged in politics, and, you know, we are where we are now. But
Well,
no.
Here's my position. You're absolutely right. I've been commentating politically since 2009. I've been warning about the consequences of overspending and debt since 2012. Overregulation, you know, the Ministry of Truth, the government defining what's true, etc. Since 2015. All that stuff, all the way through. I was opposed to big government before it was cool. But there's two things that we need to do. We need to fight tooth and nail, but we also need to look to our own families and to our own situations, because there is power in opting out of the system. There is power in a large enough number of people not being dependent on the food supply chain, the power grid, the mainstream media, etc. There is power in that. And so my decision, as I was at the start of 2020, and I was weighing my options, I was thinking, is this my fight? Do I really want to get wrapped up in this? Because I could see where it was going. And I think I said this in our last interview as well. I'm going to say it again. I told my wife when I proposed to her, I said, listen, I genuinely expect I'm going to go to prison someday.
Okay.
Right. That's a genuine expectation of mine. And I'd said that to my mum previously. She brought it up on my wedding day as part of her speech. You know, this is it. You don't get into political commentary naively, or at least you shouldn't. You should be looking at the way things are going. And I understand that being someone who is willing to speak out against the popular narrative is going to become increasingly criminalized unless we can turn this around. And that means I'm going to end up in prison at some point in time. And I nearly did already in last year when I got arrested. But thankfully was spared any prison time. I'm still up on those charges. It hasn't been resolved yet. So I'm at the start of 2020, and I'm like, well, this could be it. This could be the big fight. And this could be the one that puts me in prison. Am I willing to actually follow through on this? Am I willing to actually do this? Because the chance of me making a difference is slim to none. I'm just some random nobody YouTuber, you know, and me speaking out. Okay, yeah, I've got the likes of Professor Johnny Ioannidis with his data, you know, backing me up. I've got the data to talk about this. But at the end of the day, I'm a nobody, and I'm sticking my neck out to make probably no difference. And I made the decision I was going to do it anyway. And here's my rationale. My objective was not to win, because I can't control that. It's a much bigger problem than you know, me stepping in is not going to turn the tide on its own. I made the decision I was going to speak up regardless of whether I thought we were going to win, because I want history to record that there were people who stood. It's as simple as that. Win, lose, or draw, the history books my name won't be written in them. But the fact that there were people like me and like you that did try and stand, and that there was a resistance movement, the fact that that existed will be recorded in history. And I think that that's an important enough thing to achieve that I'm willing to take the risks and pay the price to achieve that. And I've done that for the last 2 years, and I think I've earned my stripes in that regard. And so my head is very much turning now to my own family and to our individual circumstances. Not that I'm going to stop what I'm doing, but the time has come for me now. Obviously, I'll go hammer and tong all the way into this election, and then I'm going to enter a phase of my life where it's actually about my family.
All right. The only question left in my mind is, I'm throwing everything I can at this Victoria election within my power as well. But
sure,
being someone not from the state, like when I took on the Turning Point Australia brand, I didn't want it just to be Turning Point New South Wales. I was like, no, I care about every state and every territory, you know, and it's not Turning Point East Coast either. You know, I try to help as much as possible in all the states. It's just there's not many of us. We're a growing team. We've only been, I think we're coming up on a year in September, but the only question left in my mind is what happens if it does turn for the worst in Victoria.
Mm.
in New South Wales, do the Liberals say, you know what, this strategy of being Labor light worked really well federally? Oh, we lost. Scott Morrison lost. Matthew Guy trying it in Victoria. Oh, no, he lost. Maybe we should try it. Maybe we should make it a hat trick. Like, is that what they're really going to do? Like, or are they, you know what I mean? Because November 26th is the Victorian state
Victorian
election.
Yeah.
We've got our New South Wales election in March. That's still enough time if to work out what's going on. I mean, I'm hoping make the changes now. But these people are slow learners. They just had their state council meeting in New South Wales, and they were electing new members and to represent the state of the Liberal Party. And I'm just hoping they learn the lesson so that we do have a place for people to run back to. New South Wales is a big state. It's the most populous state. You know, I think, you know, we could be the home Texas for the country. We could be the start of something. We could be the Florida if we get the right premier in.
All I'm going to say is you're better off living where the food is grown rather than where it's eaten.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say. As we go forward, you're better off living where the food is grown than where it's eaten.
Absolutely.
Be at the start of that supply chain, not the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Nice and close. But just a caveat, guys, New South Wales has the biggest police force, so just watch out for that. But we've got a lot of Middle Easterners that look a lot like myself in southwestern Sydney. You know, a lot of legal guns, so the government will think twice before doing anything. So just so you know, the 12 LGAs of concern that Gladys Berejiklian locked down. You know, we did take out our premier in a roundabout way. ICAC got her. You know, we still have the rule of law in New South Wales, unlike Victoria, where IBAC is basically a toothless tiger. But no, I'm very excited to actually see how the next few months go. But look, I'm actually prepared to see at this stage, New South Wales, the Liberal Party, they're going to lose the next election as well.
Yeah,
that's my opinion, and this is my state. This is my bread and butter. Yeah. The way things are going, the trajectory in New South Wales, we're going to lose as well. The Freedom parties, I don't think they'll be able to get the balance of power in the upper house in New South Wales. It's within possibility, but I'm already looking 3 years ahead to the next federal election. That's where my mind's at. I don't say this to demoralize people. I say this to make sure that, hang on, guys, we've got a lot of work and a lot of mainstream Aussies that have no idea what's been happening.
Yeah.
What
we've got is a massive PR and marketing problem. It was funny. My wife came to her first Friedman conference, which is the Australian Libertarian Society conference, some years ago, I think in the first couple of years of our marriage. And she'd been there for about a half a day, and she just came up to me quietly and she said, "These guys' marketing is terrible." And of course, there wasn't marketing per se going on, but she's just looking at the presentation, the branding, the communication. I mean, it's really unappealing. It is. And this has been our problem all the way through. And people like myself, like yourself, like Voice of Victoria, like so many other amazing people that are trying to communicate with the wider public, we're gaining ground. You know, I'm slowly accumulating more people that are paying attention to what I do. You've grown massively. Voice of Victoria and so many others have grown in really amazing ways. But it takes a lot of time. It takes an enormous amount of resources. I know you must have poured your heart and soul into what you do over the last year, Joel, to get to where you have. I've been chipping away steadily for 12 years and much more aggressively now for sort of 2 to get to where I am. And it requires just an enormous amount of effort, sacrifice, focus, time. And time's the worst one. Time's the biggest problem. Yeah. Because obviously time's not really working for us for as long as people keep voting the way that they currently are. Yeah. So in my opinion, Joel, what we need is for people like you and Emily and myself and all of the others to be better resourced over the next couple of years to be able to actually make the difference, to be able to actually just communicate this message. Yeah. Because I'm sorry, but Clive Palmer has a messaging problem. The Liberal Democrats have a messaging problem. We're working on that, but we have a messaging problem. All of these parties have a messaging problem, and no one's got it right yet. No one's hit that jackpot, and I didn't either in Tassie, right? I did the best I could with what I know, gave the best messaging that I could come up with, and it wasn't right yet.
Yeah.
It was decent. It had more cut through than we had in other states,
Yeah.
but it still isn't just that magic kind of formula.
Yeah.
And so we need more people, more minds with more resources working on this problem and not giving up. Let me be clear, even if I move out of Victoria or even if I move out of Australia, I'm not stopping. I'm not giving up. I'm just getting my family somewhere where I can keep doing what I do and they're not vulnerable. That's all I'm doing. I'm not going to stop fighting.
Yeah, absolutely. And can I just slightly pivot for the
Yeah.
audience? You guys are probably listening, and I'm talking to the audience right now. You guys are probably listening and being like, "Oh my god, these guys think that we're going to go in this direction, and it's all bad and terrible." Can I just take 2 seconds to just be like, "Hang on, it's not going to be all bad for a second. Let's reflect on some of the victories we'd had." And this is something I said after the election. We successfully defunded the major parties millions of dollars. The Labor Party, what you see is they got in with a clear majority in the lower house. Okay. But what you didn't see is that their primary vote absolutely crashed. Topher Field talked about this before the election. For every vote you get, if you get at least 4% of the vote, you get $2.90 for every vote in the lower house and the Senate, depending on where you get it. We defunded both major parties, so they both lost massively, and we funded the minor parties so they could fight the next elections really hard on. We had more freedom candidates we've ever had. One Nation tried to run in every seat. The UAP tried to run in every seat. The Lib Dems ran in most seats. I mean, it was absolutely amazing seeing all 10 freedom parties battling it out and in most cases working together. On top of that, as you said, we created an entirely new freedom media, alternative media class that's actually become self-sufficient in the way that it's funded by the people. So what does that mean? It means we don't get donors, single donors that are corporations that actually control it and can pull the plug at any time. It is decentralized. That's amazing. And on top of that...
Can I comment on that? More
Yeah,
importantly,
sure.
this new media that is emerging, and I wouldn't say it's independently funded yet, but we're getting closer than we've ever been before. We're not dependent on government advertising, and that's why the mainstream media are the subservient little bitches that they are. Is because if the government stops spending their $100 million a year that they spend, I'm talking, that's just the Victorian state government, let alone federal. If they pull their ads out of a newspaper, the newspaper folds. If they pull their ads off a TV channel, the TV channel goes bankrupt. They're completely subservient. We are not.
100%, over $1 billion to the ABC every year. That's what's in the budget, and that ABC is the most left wing of left wing. All of the media basically getting these subsidies by the government to talk about the Rona. This is what happened the last 2 years. And despite that, we have accounts that have hundreds of thousands of followers across all the respective pages in their states. And so from what I can estimate, the freedom community is 10 to 15% of each state. That's amazing. I mean, and the last thing I'll say is we managed to not only fight the legal fees, but when we needed to rock up at a place, we came from around the continent and we knocked on Parliament House's doors and said, "Hey, I think you're getting this wrong." And I think Ben Fordham, who I don't usually like, put it best when he said, "You can't ignore that many people." And I just want to...
They're trying.
I just want to inject all of that hope into you guys because it's not like we've done nothing. We haven't. We scared the boots off them. They ended up passing legislation to basically make it... I don't know how many parties they got rid of, the minor parties. They got rid of 20 to 40 minor parties because of the legislation that was targeting the Liberal Democrat Party. Now the Lib Dems have to change their name because of it. Anyway.
Well, what's interesting is in a way, by getting rid of a lot of those other very minor parties, they actually solved a few problems for us. Not in a huge way. My dad ran in the lower house here in Victoria for a minor freedom party. And he asked me before he did it, he said, "Oh, should I do this?" And I said, "Look, Dad, I'm sorry. And I mean, no disrespect to the people in the party. They're good people. But your primary vote is going to be a rounding error.
Yeah.
You'd be better off throwing your energy and your influence behind UAP, One Nation, Liberal Democrats. These are the three parties that actually have enough. We've each of them have had elected members of parliament in the past. We're on that sort of next tier up, as opposed to some of these other ones that are full of good people, but they're just not going to cut through." And so with that change in the laws that eliminated 20, 30, 40, however many it was, of these real micro parties, in a way, that actually did a favor to the rest of us. because we have enough members that we were able to come over the top and to meet that threshold and to continue on. But here's the key thing, and this is what I think you're sort of getting at, Joel, is this is a long-term project. The battle between those that want power and those that want freedom has been going on since long before I was born, and it will be going on long after I'm dead. Right? There isn't some easy insta win here. This was never going to be a one and done election. It's just not how it works. These movements take time, and I think we've actually we're close to finishing the foundation. I wouldn't say the foundation.
We've lost Topher.
Frozen.
There you are.
Yeah.
Yep, you're back. There we go. Yeah, okay. I can hear you. Yep, we're back. Beautiful.
All I was saying was I think we're close to finishing the foundation for this movement. And the foundation's the boring bit.
Frozen again. Well, that's not good. I don't like that it's getting frozen. I'm sure he'll come back in. There he is.
Yep, I'm back.
Oh no, what's going on?
I don't know.
They're censoring us.
No, my wife's probably downloading Netflix's. No. So all I'm saying is we're close to finishing that foundation, and the foundation's the ugly bit. You're stuck in the mud, you're digging a hole. It's heavy, hard work, but it's necessary. And if you don't do that, then whatever you build on top is just going to fall apart. And all of this work that we're doing, the various freedom parties working together, various community organizations appearing and beginning to organize and coordinate. And there's various chapters of whether it's Stand in the Park, whether it's RDA, whether it's the Knox Freedom Family, various other groups. I'll be speaking to the Knox Freedom Family on Friday of this week. There are these groups that have popped up out of nowhere, and this is all forming that base, that foundation that we can start to build on top of. And I don't think it'll happen in time for the Victorian election. It may not even happen in time for the New South Wales election, but I think by the time the next federal election rolls around, we're going to be reflecting and saying, okay, the base is there and we're now building the structure. And that, I think, is when the work is going to feel less hard and the results are going to start to become more apparent.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always comforted by the idea of traffic only moving in one direction. I'm not losing viewers to the mainstream media. It's just not a thing. The establishment, the government, all of the bureaucracy and the media, they are successfully pissing off every segment of society systematically. And so far we're already up to 10 to 15% in about 2 years. I mean, that's pretty quick. I mean, if they keep this up, by the time we get to the next federal election, we'll have the biggest amount.
Yeah, lost the ash all over the white hoodie.
He did it for you guys. Like and share and subscribe, guys, for this. That's how you know this isn't scripted. The idea that we take a lot of lessons from the Americans. They are doing a phenomenal job, and I want to use this to jump into your idea. I've been watching a lot about what the Daily Wire have been doing. They're an organization over there, guys. You might know Ben Shapiro, who's one of the probably most well-known commentators there. Matt Walsh. They just recently signed on Jordan Peterson to do a bunch of segments as well. They are taking their content to the absolute next level. They have over 1 million. They're approaching 1 million subscribers now that have subscribed every month, making payments to their service. They have pledged $100 million to making kids content so that they can take it away, those eyeballs away from Disney and Disney Plus. And they want to compete against the establishment and all this woke ideology. One of the awesome things they've done is they've actually started their own razor company. Long story short, they had a sponsor. It was called Harry's Razors. They ended up basically defunding the Daily Wire because they had the wrong opinions on, I think it was transgenderism. And then the Daily Wire said, you know what? We've had it with you guys. No worries. You can go, you won't be missed. We're going to make our own razor company. And they've already got, I think, hundreds of thousands of subscribers on that already. And I want to talk about exactly your idea. You've mentioned about making coffee.
Yeah, so those that follow my page, you'll know I've kind of been teasing everyone with information about coffee lately, and I'm going to lay it all on the table on Thursday, 2 Thursdays time, whatever date that is. and literally do it. I'm going to do a slow chat dedicated to explaining everything about this, the reason behind it, the experiences that I've had that led me to conclude that this is the right way to go, and why I think it's going to make a difference. I don't think we in Australia are ready for a Daily Wire yet. Where we don't have enough people in the movement, and our population being 1/13 the size of the US population, the critical mass just isn't quite there. I mean, you think about it, Daily Wire has 1 million subscribers. That's a huge number of people, but it's actually only about 1/3 of 1% of the US population. So you kind of, to put that in perspective. So I don't think we're ready for that model yet. But I've been very, very bothered by the fact that there are some amazing people doing amazing work. And I know many of them personally now, thanks to, being part of the protests and everything else, that are being hamstrung. There are people that I know could be pouring a lot more time and effort into creating the content that they do, but they have to work a job because they've got bills to pay, same as everybody else. There are lots of things that I would like to do, but I would have to pay money out of my pocket to do them. And so I just don't, I can't. This is why I have things like merch and other things like that. And so it was really bothering me. And I've had a few people come along talking about funding, a new media and alternative sort of media. And that's nice and that's good. And those conversations are ongoing. I'm having more meetings with some people about that. And that may yet lead somewhere. But I realized that what was missing, so I'm both a capitalist and a libertarian, right? In my opinion, you really shouldn't be able to be one without the other, but I'll list them separately. I'm a capitalist and a libertarian. So I wanted a solution to this problem that was both capitalist and libertarian. And by libertarian, in this case, I mean decentralized. There isn't some central body controlling a pot of money, doling it out and saying, well, you can have this budget, you can have that budget. Oh, we didn't really like that, so we're going to reduce your budget. We see this with places like Sky News. They come on and they say, hey, we're an alternative. We're an alternative to the established media. It's a matter of months before they just become a variation on the establishment media. Why? Because they've got bean counters who are worried about advertising dollars and all the same things, all those pressures that made the mainstream media what it is are experienced by any other network that tries to come in and take their place. We just don't have a big enough ecosystem here to sustain an alternative. So the thought that I had, and this is where I've gone with this, is what if there was something that was in its own right a good quality product that was already popular in Australia. Lots of people were already, buying it. In this case, coffee, right? The majority of Australians drink a couple of coffees a week, if not a coffee every single day. Not every single person, but the majority. So coffee is already being consumed in massive numbers. What if it were possible for some young, aspiring content creator, someone who really wants to make, let's say, children's entertainment, someone whose name I've never even heard of, right? You've never heard of yet. There are nobody at this moment in time. But they open up a brand new channel and they're doing, I don't know, for the sake of the argument, animations. They're doing kids' animations that have a freedom focus, a libertarian focus. They're taking the ideas of John Stuart Mill and others and putting them into fun little short stories that are animated for kids, right? That's a great thing. And I'd love to see that succeed. But they start to do it in their own time, the way that I started, the way that you started, the way that all of us have started. What if there was something that they could be sponsored by that actually helped them start to earn revenue as they started to get an audience? So their first video, a couple of hundred people watch it and 5 people go, you know what, I'd love to see more of that. What if there was some way that wasn't just a Patreon style support me type of link? It wasn't a charitable based thing, right? It was a capitalist based thing where there's value going both ways in the exchange. And this is where I had the idea. And I've got a business called The Cigar Professor. We import cigars into Australia. We have subscribers. We mail out packs of cigars to subscribers every 3 months. My business partner in that, his profession is coffee. He's actually been a coffee judge at the Australian Coffee Championships on a few occasions, and he earns his living in coffee. And I thought, well, what if I use his talents and his knowledge and his connections and offer a coffee subscription service? And the idea of it is this: it becomes the thing that a freedom-friendly content creator can become an affiliate for. Basically, they get, if someone signs up using their code, then they get 10% of every single subscription every single month. And because it's a subscription, what happens is they put out their first little animation, 5 people sign up and go, hey, I'll buy your coffee. I'll buy the coffee under your subscription. So you start to get some money. And they sit there and go, hey, you know what? If I got 5 new people each episode, that would add up to something over a period of a year. And now I'm making a very small part-time income after only a year of doing this. I'm 12 years in. It was 11 years before I started earning any kind of income out of what I do. And to make it possible, if a content creator is good, and this is the capitalist part of it again, I'm not deciding, hey, I like your content, I'll throw some money your way. No, no, no. The people are deciding that based on whether they decide to sign up and have them as their affiliate. So the idea is basically it's a coffee subscription service. It's called Brew, Brew Australia, brewaustralia.com. The website's up. We're just taking our email addresses at the moment. I've got a photo shoot and a video shoot later, early next week, where we're doing all the marketing for it. And the idea is basically you sign up to that and you enter into the relevant field, the content creator that you want to support. Could be Turning Point Australia, could be RDA, could be Voice of Victoria, anyone that wants to sign up. And the only gatekeeper behavior that I have is to decide whether they're suitable or not. Does this person actually support freedom or not? Because if they don't, I'm not going to allow them to become an affiliate. But if they do, there's no further looking into, do I like what they're doing? Do I like their style? Are they a bit too conspiratorial? No, 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 none of that. We're not canceling people, right? That's up to you to decide which person you want to be supporting. So that's the idea. And my hope would be that over the period of the next 2 to 3 years, we can grow this to the point that there's actually a viable career pathway. People shy away from this. Oh, no, it shouldn't be about the money. Well, I'm sorry. My landlord, it's about the money. My grocery store, it's about the money. When I want to put a tank of petrol in my car, it's about the money. So I'm sorry, there is a degree to which it is about the money. So what if we could give these talented up-and-comers a viable, realistic pathway to actually be able to pay their bills creating freedom-friendly content? We're not ready for a Daily Wire yet, but I think we're ready for something like this. I think this could really work. So this has become, I've now been working on it for over 6 months, quietly in the background. I began to tease people with it about a month ago to say that it was coming. And in about 2 weeks, you're going to see us releasing a lot more information. Or in 2 Thursdays' time, I'm doing a slow chat, just laying out the entire philosophy behind it, exactly what it is, and giving people the opportunity to become. So I need 250 people basically to become foundation members that then make it possible for the business just to function as a business. And then everyone after that point gets to select a content creator that they want to support. And then it starts to go out and it's not just supporting me. Obviously, that first 250 is effectively supporting me. Right? That's what that's about. It's to actually allow me to operate the business and make a little bit of money out of that. Then after that, every single person gets to pick who do you want to support. And if I don't have an affiliate link with the person that you want to support, tell me who it is, and I'll reach out to them and I'll have a look. And if they're freedom friendly, we'll add them. And you can literally go out there and just say, hey, there's this young kid that started doing this thing. I really like their style. Can I please support them through this? And it just becomes this, it's not centrally controlled. It's libertarian in that sense. It's capitalist in the sense that there is a trade going on. You're buying coffee. But it's also capitalist in the sense that you are supporting the people that you want to support. It's not me that's making that decision. So that's where I'm going. I think it has the potential to completely change the media landscape in Australia forever. I think it has the potential to completely rewrite the rules around freedom-friendly content in Australia, and that's what I hope to do.
Yeah, and it also sounds like it can't be. It doesn't sound political either. It doesn't sound like it'd end up picking a political party as a political donation.
If you support freedom in principle, as a matter of principle, then you can partner with us.
Right. Yeah, look, I can't wait to see. So that's in a couple of weeks. You're going to do
the
full
website
rundown.
Brew Australia is already up. We've already got an Instagram page and a Facebook page. Not that there's many people there because not a lot of people know about it yet. But yes, in the coming weeks is when there's going to be a lot more information being released about it.
Awesome. Well, we'll have to keep an eye out to see how that goes. One of the biggest problems I saw over the last couple of years is the fact that you get a Simon Holmes a court coming in with $20 million, running in 20 seats, $1 million a seat, and being able to do a very targeted campaign and actually being very successful. And then you've got some people that put hundreds of millions of dollars into the campaign and successfully managed to ruin the word freedom because of bad advertising.
I agree with you on that one.
I think that to pretend that money is not important, it's laughable. We are up against some of the most well-funded campaigns in history and in Australian history. And when it comes to the ideas I try to usually put forward, I try to make them as efficiently spending as possible. I mean,
Sure.
for example, the election, we ended up having, and I say this for my own viewers who really helped spread the how to vote cards. This is your success because you made it work. It was a great idea, the how to vote cards. We put our heart and soul into it to make sure you had the best information. And we ended up having over 250,000 downloads of the actual how to vote card. So that's lower house and upper house is one how to vote card. That's excellent, guys. Wow, well done. That was you. That's on you. It wasn't just me. I mean, sure, I have a team who actually put the thought into it, and then I just did my videos and got it out to you. In terms of the budget that we had for that, last I checked, it was only $5,000 in terms of the budget. Now,
that's phenomenal.
you guys do the maths. If it's true that we ended up actually defunding that 250,000 people took those cards to the ballot box, maybe a few of them shared a screenshot of it around, which we can't track. That's 500,000 people going out there, both for the lower house and for the upper house. So 250,000 times two, and you times that by $2.90.
Yeah.
We're looking at possibly, and I don't know, guys, I have no idea, possibly defunding the major parties by $1.45 million. Now, that's not a bad investment for 5K, if I may say so myself. But I'm not very apologetic when it comes to asking for money, because my audience knows if I'm spending the money, it's going to be a quality thing. It's going to be really efficiently done. And I think people, if they saw what you did on the Battleground Melbourne documentary, it was really well done.
Yeah, thank you. But here's the thing. It's not just about people like you and I. You and I have already kind of crossed that first hurdle where we do have people that know about us and are willing to reach into their pockets purely on ideological grounds to say, I like what you're doing, I'm going to support it. We're missing a lot of talent that never makes it to the point where you or I even hear of them. And they could be 10 times more talented than you or I. They just don't have the mechanism. They're not able to get noticed.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they look ahead at what this life means for them, and they go, well, this is just going to suck, and I'm going to be broke, and I'm never going to be able to get married and have kids and buy a house and all these things if I go down this path. And so they choose a different path. And what I really want to do is to change the way this career choice, I mean, it's not a career, it is a passion, it has to be. But to change the way this looks financially so that people can say, hey, actually, I've got a passion to create this content. And if that content actually does resonate with people, there's a way that I could pay bills and I could hire a team and I could actually buy a house, and get married and have kids. And there's actually a way to, there is a way to do it in America. There isn't here yet. And that's what I'm hoping. This becomes the first stepping stone. And in time, we'll branch out of coffee. I mean, people are spending money all the time on all sorts of different things. What if we could offer them the opportunity to buy really good quality stuff that actually saves them money? Because this coffee is cheaper than the coffee you're buying at the moment, right? It's really good quality. It's specialty grade organic coffee. It's a subscription. It shows up to your door every single month, ready for you to make. It's the easiest coffee you've ever made. It tastes fantastic. It's going to save you money compared to buying at a cafe. In fact, it's less than half the cost. And it's supporting the freedom-friendly media landscape. So what if we then branched out into other things, other forms of, whether it was supplements or whether it was, milkman showing up at your door every day with fresh milk, like who knows where it could go. But we're all spending money all the time. What if we could shift that spending instead of it being extra money out of your pocket, right? Which everyone only has so much of that, right?
Yeah.
What if it was the money that you're already spending, but now it's cheaper on a better quality product that's supporting freedom-friendly media? What if we could achieve that? And that's what I'm aiming for with this.
Yeah, I'm definitely very worried about having made it through the door like yourself on, and it's not just the funding, guys. It's the censorship. I feel like I've been around long enough to get people's emails and be like, okay, no worries, we're off. If everything got nuked, I've got their emails. A lot of people they can't even they never get there. The one word, it takes one word, and that's it. You're censored forever on mainstream social media, and you can't get a following to generate interest, likes, views. So they make you think that your content's crap. Now look, I can't wait to hear the full proposal on this, and I think there's absolute potential, and I think it's ludicrous to think that we can't start. We need to start producing our own things. We have to. I mean, whether it's, the greater debate about manufacturing in Australia, or whether it's having more conservatives actually step up and start making things like our own social media platforms like we saw in America. But America, as usual, leading the way. We've got a long way to go. One of the really cool things I can't wait to share with you, Topher, and you guys are hearing this live. I have not told Topher about this at all. Topher, you know that Nigel Farage is coming to tour at the end of September. I would love to have you on the dinner table with Nigel for a special dinner backstage on the actual Victorian show on the 26th.
This is my happy dance. This is my happy dance.
I think you'd love to meet the guy. He's an absolutely charismatic bloke, Nigel. And I'd love to see you there. I think it'd be awesome, guys. And the Victorian show's on the 26th. Sydney's on the 27th of September, and Brisbane's on the 30th, I do believe, of September. So that's going to be really good. And it'd be great to have you there. I think people. This is someone that's been against the establishment in the UK and managed to prevail to a large extent.
What he's accomplished is astonishing. His resilience, in spite of all the haters and the people that have tried to drag him down, is just deeply impressed. Just at a personal level, I mean, you've experienced the same thing, Joel. The level of personal hatred that you cop doing what we do, and he's stood tall through all of that. He's a man that I have some disagreements with. I'm not a conservative myself. So politically speaking, I have some disagreements with, but I have absolute admiration for what he's accomplished, and the way that he has stood firm is just deeply impressive to me. He and I actually did briefly have some communications many years ago when I worked with Lord Christopher Monckton on the 50 to 1 project. But I've never met him and never had the chance to actually have anything resembling a decent conversation with him. So I accept your invitation. I'm thrilled to have been invited, and I feel very, very honored. Thank you.
That's really awesome. I'm actually I've just got word literally over text. Sorry, I'm so rude, guys. I've actually just got word. I'll be interviewing him this week.
Fantastic.
I'm totally going to nerd out on this guy. Like, you said you flatter me. No, honestly, man. Like, I have been following this guy. Like, I was on construction sites laying bricks. I was doing the hard work. I was landscaping and listening to LBC radio. I can still recall the actual advertisements they were playing during the breaks when he was on LBC radio. And I got a front row seat just to see the whole of Brexit and learn all of these lessons. A lot of people are like, Joel, how do you know so much about Australian politics? As just like you, it's overseas. America, the UK, things are a lot more fast paced. I am flattered that you think I've copped as much flack as Nigel. No bloody way. Sure, I've had my legal fees and the police have come after me, and I get, the shill watchers out there. No, Nigel has absolutely, no one has copped it like him in the UK. It's been insane. The fact that the man's not a knight blows my mind. He is the Nigel, absolutely. And he's the Nigel, he's the Donald Trump of the UK, except the way their political system's set up, he can't get into the major party and run as the president or the prime minister. You got to be in there and work through the system.
You got to schmooze. The same as Australia. You've got to schmooze your way up that pole.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason why I bring up this tour, guys, and by the way, if you want tickets, nigellive.com.au, is the fact that Nigel is actually a person that is he actually introduced us with Turning Point. He was actually the one that introduced us to the people over in America, and he was the one that actually ended up saying, these are the guys that can run Turning Point Australia. And so a lot of people don't know that. He's an absolute legend. And going back to the reason why I brought this up, these tours are really going to help fund everything we're doing. So the September actual events that we're holding, 3 shows, they're going to really help fund what we're going to be doing in Victoria, what we're going to be doing in New South Wales, all of our other content, our animation series, and to bring more staff on. And so as you can probably tell from my conversation with Topher, a lot of people, they're trying to start up. I think Voice for Victoria, they're starting proper subscription service as well. And I wish her the best of luck with that as well. We're all trying to work out, okay, we've established a presence, we've established value. How can we keep this going in a way that works for everyone? So it's going to be an interesting, few years, but there's one thing I can see. None of us are going away. We're not going to let some I better not quote M on this, but we're not going to let, some idiots basically push us around and chase us out of our state. And I was going to quote her from your documentary.
from
You know
Go
the
Grey
line.
Melbourne.
And
Yes, I do.
so I just can't wait to be down there in Melbourne with you, and watching that live with everyone. I think it's going to be quite the experience being in the theater. And believe it or not, Topher, we've talked for an hour, 14 minutes, and it feels like the time just goes with us. It's been an absolute pleasure. Have you seen the Nigel trailer that we played?
No, I haven't. That's passed me by somehow.
Oh wow! Well, just for the sake of it, guys, and any excuse to play it, I think I might play it right now. Here we go.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
All right.
You have the charisma of a damp rag and the appearance of a low-grade bank clerk. Virtually none of you have ever done a proper job in your lives. Just who the hell do you think you people are? Who are you? Who voted for you?
Big government. I can't stand it.
Washing Nigel, we know you! You're a stinking racist too!
They came to bar me from actually physically entering this hotel. That's not very nice, but it's not going to stop me.
We don't know you. We don't want you. You have no legitimacy in this job at all.
This is the world's greatest leader!
All I need is the right beer named after me. That's all we need.
You know, when I came here 17 years ago and I said that I wanted to lead a campaign to get Britain to leave the European Union, you all laughed at me. You're not laughing now, are you?
Anyway, that is who you will be seeing in Melbourne. I can't wait.
Puts a smile on my face. I tell you what, puts a smile on my face. Listen, can I just say something?
Yeah, mate.
I have some inkling of the amount of risk that Joel has had to take to put this tour on. There are all the costs around the events and the actual locations where he's going. There's going to be costs around, Nigel, etc. He's got bills to pay as well. So he can't fly around halfway around the world and get nothing. You need to tell Joel that he's on the right track, and he needs to do it by booking tickets so that this becomes a financial success, because you know that he's going to roll that money back into doing more good work, right? This is the thing. People can say nice things about you, but people can lie with their words. People don't lie with their money. People tell the truth with their money. If you actually want to support Joel and you want to see more of this sort of stuff happening in Australia, then you need to book your tickets. Number one, you'll be glad you were there. I look forward to seeing you there if you're there in Melbourne. And number two, it's telling Joel, hey, this is a good thing. I'll take a risk again. I'll do this again. I'll bring out more amazing speakers. I'll put on more amazing events. I'll keep bringing this community together. If he doesn't sell tickets, what does that tell him? Yeah. You figure it out. Buy tickets, guys. Get there. You will not regret it.
Absolutely. And look, a lot of people are sort of taking my word for it, that Nigel's an amazing guy. There's so many videos out there to see about him. But the best is actually yet to come. The future guests we have planned for Turning Point, they're either on par or better. And they're from America, just to allude to it. We know exactly who they are. I just got to keep my lips sealed. And this is the start of something, if you guys like it. If you don't want it, we can just be stuck with our classic Australian politicians. But there's something invigorating about seeing overseas politicians come to Australia and be like, yeah, you know what? We kicked ass in our own countries, and I want to encourage you guys in Australia to do the same. We do want to do, this is the first of a lot more tours. We wanted to prioritize Victoria. That's why you're the first cab off the rank on the 26th, because of your state election especially. And then we've also got Sydney in New South Wales being the next one after that because of our state election in March. And then there's Queensland, which just sort of worked with numbers and the East Coast. But for future tours, we will definitely be doing the other states. This isn't Turning Point East Coast. This isn't Turning Point New South Wales, Melbourne. This is a Turning Point Australia. And if you guys are able to make it even from the other states, would love to have you. This is, as Donald Trump would say, the best is yet to come. We've got plenty of things lined up. And thank you so much for that plug. If you guys want tickets, absolutely. Please remember to go book at nigellive.com.au. And I just want to thank you for coming on and sharing the time with me, mate.
Mate, it's my pleasure, and it's always a lot of fun. The time does pass very, very quickly. I'm going to give myself one last plug shamelessly before we finish, and that is topherfield.net. Join the mailing list, as the graphic says, but also the very top blog post that's pasted there has the dates and the booking links for all of the Battleground Melbourne cinema showings. Now, Battleground Melbourne, just to be very clear, it's available for you to watch for free at battlegroundmelbourne.com. Okay, you don't have to pay to see it. It's free to watch. It was crowdfunded and it will always be free to watch. But if you want to be in that room, especially the premiere at Rivoli Cinemas in Camberwell on the 23rd of August, that's going to be a phenomenal room to be in. There's only about 100 tickets left. We've sold about 400-ish of them. There's about 100 tickets left. And then there's tickets left at the other showings that you'll find there as well. But some of them are getting close to selling out. So if you want to be there, like I said at the start, you send a link to Battleground Melbourne to someone, they probably won't watch it. You go over to their house with a DVD, they might watch it. You book them a ticket at the cinemas and you tell them they're coming to the cinemas with you. Well, then they're kind of obliged, aren't they? They kind of have to do it at that point, right? And so that's what this cinema tour is about. It's about not just, obviously, those who already know about it, those who have seen it, coming together with each other in one room and having that experience, because I think that's going to be really powerful. And I think it's going to be really healing for a lot of us, but it's also about bringing in those other people and saying, hey, sit down, watch this. It'll change your life. It'll change how you view what's happened in Victoria over the last couple of years. That's what it's for. So topherfield.net, the very first blog post, it's pinned to the top of the page. You'll find all the links there.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Topher. Guys, if you enjoyed this conversation, remember to like, comment, give it a share, and be sure to support this guy and all the stuff that he's doing in Victoria. Topher, mate, it's been a pleasure.
Joel, it always is. I look forward to next time.
I can't wait to see you in person soon.
Yay, finally.
Finally. All right, see you guys.